Gauntlet mode rotates between standard mode and singleton mode, where you can only use decks that contain one of each card and up to 3 different regions. It's been a while since I did one of these videos, so I thought it would be the perfect time to do another video looking at singleton decks, taking into account the latest changes to the meta and the new cards that have been introduced since I last time did this. This video will look at one aggro deck, one mid-range deck and one control deck. This is Best Singleton Decks Cosmic Creations. This video has been done in collaboration with BomberTV. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications too. So let's dive in. As a general rule of thumb, each deck will contain 40 unique cards. No 2 cards are allowed to be the same. To maximise the number of powerful cards, each deck contains 6 champions which try to link into some very high level synergy theme, for example burn, combat or death for example. First up is the Aggro tri-region singleton deck. This features cards from Noxus, Shadow Isles and Ionia. It actually has the most followers out of all the decks today, with a grand total of 22 different followers. This deck is also the most budget out of the 3 decks, with a total of 19 commons. So Shadow Isles has a lot of themes going on, and in this deck we're focused on the ephemeral keyword and the last breath mechanics. Both of these themes do amazingly well on their own, but often the Shadow Isles ephemeral theme is combined with Ionia, so this is an obvious region combo. This tri-region deck takes it one stage further, as it also combines the general aggressive nature of cards associated with Noxus. This leaves you with a super aggressive deck that will be aiming to close that game as soon as possible. Ionia aims to give you a head start, putting the pressure on early thanks to cards like Green Gillet Duo or Zed. Additionally, it gives you access to the best utility cards in the game through cards like Deny against board wipes or Will of Ionia against big units, basically making your opponent skip a turn. Shadow Isles is present in all stages of the game, both in early game with cards like Bark Beast and Hapless Aristocat to fight board dominance from the start, whilst also providing late game bombs such as Hecarim or Callista. Shadow Isles is a faction that nicely links all the cards in this deck together through the theme of death. Finally, Noxus is more present in the late game with big guys such as K to the Arm or Darius to end the game really quick when they do get played. When you can't finish a game through usual methods, you can use Noxus Overwhelm cards to deal big damage. These are supported by spells like Decimate for big burn damage, or Decisive Maneuver to prepare for a big aggro finish. If you want to climb Singleton Gauntlet as quickly as possible, this is the deck for you. Next up is the mid-range tri-region singleton deck. This features cards from Demacia-Freljord and Noxus. It also has a high number of followers with 21 in total, fitting in line with the follower combat theme mid-range decks typically have. This deck contains the most Demacia cards out of the 3, sitting at 19 out of the 40 in total. The old school vanilla Demacia-Noxus mid-range is pretty viable in this format, even though not all the cards are competitive enough for ranked. In this strange format, even the second hand cards from those factions are still pretty valuable, and this is a very important aspect in a value driven format. Freljord-Noxus is a very strong archetype at the moment in ranked, and the addition of some power cards from Freljord can make this tri-region deck even stronger. Basically, you can see this as a hybrid version of the Frostbite mid-range deck currently dominating the meta, with some Demacian cards to substitute the missing cards needed in this restriction of the format. Or stronger version of the Singleton Demacia-Noxus, which is already the best deck in the previous Singleton format. All regions are contributing something in terms of value in this deck. To finish off talking about this deck, I want to talk about the champion choices. Ashe and Garen are generating insane value in the mid game, whilst Darius and Tryndamere are there to finish off the game with that amazing kind of pressure they can put on through Overwhelm. As for the spells in this deck, we combine all the cheap tricks from Freljord, so think Brittle Steel and Elixir of Iron, which can be used in combat all for removal, and a great value at just 1 mana, generating a huge mana advantage at the same time. This deck also has the best removals from Noxus, Calling Strike and Nox and Favor. Even though these don't fit directly in line with the theme of the combat nature of this deck, you can use them to save key units that are helping you ramp to that mid-game peak that you want with this deck. To finish off, I want to mention the insane value generating spells from Demacia, Riposte and Judgment. No mid-range deck is complete without these. Use Riposte to save your units, or take out your opponent's key units. Do I even need to mention why Judgment should be included? Remember to use this both offensively to get the advantage, or defensively when there's an unfavourable fight you're going to be involved in. If you want to have a nice mix of control and aggression somewhere in the middle, winning Singleton decks at a medium pace, then this is the deck for you. Finally, this is the Control Tri-Region Singleton deck. This features cards from Shadow Isles, Freljord and Targon. It has the most spells out of the 3 decks, with a total of 21 in total, fitting in line with the removal control theme you typically see in control decks. This deck contains mostly Freljord and Targon cards, and only features a total of 9 Shadow Isles cards, which are mostly spells. This is the deck that BomberTV is recently using to get his Prime Glory, and I'd highly recommend it as well. You can find a link to this video to his deck in the pinned comment and the card above. The idea of this deck is to be as in control as you possibly can, taking advantage of the 3 best regions for doing so, Freljord, Shadow Isles and Targon. To remove this deck, you need to cast the huge finishers such as Feel the Rush and Aurelian Soul, and the whole deck basically builds towards playing these cards. To do this, you need to survive long enough, and these can be achieved with 3 main strategies. 1. Removing threats. 2. Needing to survive fewer turns as possible, and 3. Avoid lethal finishing blows from your opponent. To remove all threats, all the great control tools in this deck allow you to do this, and they basically feature cards primarily from Freljord and Shadow Isles, such as Avalanche and Runation. Avalanche deals 2 to all the units on the board, and Runation simply kills all units on the board. These are 2 great control spells that you can use to make sure your opponent's board does not build up. To get to your later game quicker and minimise the survival period, you can speed up your mana gain so you can reach basically the necessary mana as quick as possible at basically your win conditions. To do this, we take advantage of cards that help you ramp, from Freljord like Attalist of the Ions, and from Targon, specifically Ellipse Dragon, to cast Aurelian Soul basically as quickly as possible with that kind of dragon synergy. To avoid lethal finishing blows, we take advantage of all the heals that Shadow Isles and Targon provide, such as Grasp of the Undying and Revitalizing Roar. Grasp of the Undying drains 3 from any unit, and Revitalizing Roar involves revealing a card in your hand and healing your Nexus by its power. This deck has a lot of high power cards like the Infinite Mind Splitter and Tryndamere, so you'll basically be able to heal quite a lot from this effect. Additionally, if you're Enlightened, then the card you select with Revitalizing Roar costs 0, which links perfectly to all the mana ramp cards in this theme with that Enlightened and basically this really powerful late game finish. As you can see, all 3 of the regions here contribute in a couple of ways to the 3 main strategies, and there are cards that basically also contribute to more than one of these strategies. For example, Catalyst of the Ions is ramp and survivability, and Grasp of the Undying is survivability and removal. With these 3 ideas in mind, you can easily get to the late game, basically where there's very little your opponent can do once you reach it, and you'll basically simply be able to overwhelm them and win the game, and ideally get Prime Glory. And there we go guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at 3 different Singleton decks that you can use to tear up Gauntlet mood and get the Prime Glory all aiming for. I certainly had a lot of fun talking about these decks, and the 3 regions opens up so many more possibilities for decks that you can build in this mood. The data presented here is analysed by BomberTV using MOBA Analytics. He's a Masters tier player with a background in game theory and game design. He took the most winning archetypes into Master tier, excluding ones with small play rates, analysed their key properties on why they are so strong. Link to his channel is in a pinned comment and in the card above. What is your favourite Singleton deck? I would love to hear in the comments. This channel makes all sorts of decks videos like starter decks, best meta decks and even top 10 decks. We also occasionally go away from standard decks and look at alternative ones like Singleton and even some meme decks. The videos are all in this analysis format. If you like what you see, you know what to do. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications too. See you next time, guys.